Right, so today's planting is yet again going in two parts, and part one is going to be one that I had planned to make a little bit more complicated than I'm making it today. It was originally going to involve a whole lot of extras, but today it's going to be sort of tuned down because I did see another spot that I thought would be quite happy in, and it'd be a lot simpler, and I was a little bit short of time, and I think this would actually be quite a nice spot for it, possibly nicer than the place I'd originally thought. So this is going in on a line of Opuntias. You can see I've put quite a large hole here. This is not because I want it extra wet, this is actually the opposite. This is one where I'm going to be wanting it extra dry, so we're going to be putting in a whole bunch of pieces of rubble around the edge of the hole, which should help a little bit with drainage, and also, quite importantly, they should make it a little bit harder for our ever-present mole rats to burrow in and chew the base of this, which they might do. I'm not sure. This is one I haven't planted much before, and I just don't want to risk it because it is not particularly common, and I would like to be able to propagate from this, so I'd really like it not to get eaten. So this is going to be an Aloidendron barbarae, I think. It is one of the Tree-Aloes. It is, I think, the species which is from the sort of eastern parts of South Africa and into Mozambique. It is quite a large tree. It's quite happy in woodland. I'm not sure whether it would really be thrilled in forest, but we should be very much in the right sort of light levels here. We are going to be putting in 4 little companion plants here. The first one is perfectly sensible, which is going to be a Cotleton barbae, which is one of the bushfield pig's ears. This is going to be quite a nice little toxic barrier because it's not closely related to the Opuntia, it's not closely related to the aloe. And that is where sensible ends, because the next one is going to be mostly here to stop people kicking the aloe, because this is Opuntia microdazis, which is the bunny ears cactus. It is a deeply unpleasant cactus to touch. It is covered in tiny little hairs, and it's quite a good way of reminding people not to put their feet too close to a plant you really don't want kicked. Then after that, I'm going to be putting in an Auduvena, I think, the tiger-tooth aloe, which is a lovely little, very dwarf aloe. It doesn't tend to do well sort of in open spaces because it can get lost, but hopefully this space doesn't really grow much. It's quite compacted sand, so hopefully this will be open enough that it should do all right here. And then we're going to be putting in a piece of aloe vera, which I also don't usually plant out because it tends to get eaten by the mole rats very quickly. But again, inside this circle of rubble, it should be quite well protected. As it warms up, it's not just plants getting more active, and in part one of this planting, I did accidentally chop a little tropical centipede in half with a shovel, which is not a pleasant experience. And so for part two, I decided to go with something simpler, and so I used a fork to dig a sort of loose hole here, which is quite good because it turns out we had another lovely piece of local tropical wildlife in there, which is one of the amphisbaenians, the Kafui worm lizard. I'm never entirely sure if worm lizards should count as lizards. They definitely don't count as snakes. They're sort of quite an early branch as far as I know. I think even before the geckos branched off from the rest of the sort of lizards and snakes. But they're wonderful little creatures, and this one is an endemic species. It's really nice to have around, so I'm glad that it only got minor injuries from the fork. But anyway, into this hole we're going to be putting an agave angustifolia, I think, which is one of the rather prickly agaves. This is in a line of dracaenas that was marking out where there was going to be a sort of firebreak of Opuntias and agaves. And I'd chosen one of the sort of smooth-leafed agaves, which is much less unpleasant to walk past than this one, but someone decided to take advantage of that by making a path through here, and I do not want a path through here, so I'm going to be reminding people that this is not a pathway by putting this rather prickly one, and that is going to be accompanied by a little tree in the form of Euphorbia tirucali, which is the pencil tree, which is also not overly pleasant to push through once it becomes a hedge. So that should be everything for today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed it, and if you haven't enjoyed it, thank you for watching anyway. Please tune in again tomorrow. I will be planting something else. I'm not sure what yet, so we will have to find out together.